Today what we're going to look at doing is formatting type in InDesign. We're going to take this document, which right now is just a big blob of text and it's unformatted. I've already added in the logo for you since you've already had experience working with placed images in InDesign. We're going to turn this into something that looks like this. So to start, we're going to open up the Formatting in InDesign folder and double click on the basic formatting file to open it up. And we're going to start by going to the window menu, workspace, and ensure that Essentials is selected. And if it is selected, select Reset Essentials. This just ensures that all the tools and palettes look the same on your computer as they do in this video. The next thing you're going to do is make sure that you're viewing your document in normal mode, which means that we can see the outlines of the containers, we can see any grids, guides, and margins that we might be using. To do that, we're going to go to the bottom icon in our toolbar, press and hold, and select normal. And you can also toggle between normal and preview mode by pressing W on the keyboard. Our next step is to divide up this text container into columns. To break up this container into 4 columns, we're going to make sure that we have our selection tool active, and we're going to click on the text container. And then we're going to use the upper portion of the InDesign window, and we're going to look for an icon that says number of columns. Right now it says 1, and we're going to change it to 4 and press enter. And you can see now that this text container is broken up into 4 columns. And our text just naturally flows from one column to the next. There's also space in between each column, and that's referred to as the gutter. We're going to increase that to 1p7. So we're going to just type in the 7, press enter, and now you can see that that gutter space is increased. Now, instead of worrying about formatting all the text at the same time, I'm just going to worry about defining a look for each heading and paragraph. So I'm going to start with this upper area where it says Adobe InDesign and then gives a description of what Adobe InDesign is. I'm going to click and drag to highlight that InDesign description. I'm going to make sure that my character formatting is enabled by making sure that the A is clicked. And I'm going to choose Avenir, medium. 6-point type is way too small, so I'm going to increase it by 2 points so that it's 8 point. And then I'm going to click and drag to select the Adobe InDesign text. I'm going to change typeface to Avenir, and I'm going to select black, Avenir black, and I'm going to increase the point size to about 14 point, and then I'm going to ask for it to be all caps. Rather than keeping the name of the application all black, I want to give it a color so that it stands out and it adds a bit of variety to my design. So I am going to first go to my eyedropper tool in the tool palette, and if you don't see the eyedropper tool, you might see color theme tool or measure tool, but if you click and hold, you can select the eyedropper. And then I'm going to reselect my text tool, select this line of text, and select my eyedropper. Now rather than just going to my swatches palette and using the default red or creating my own, it makes sense to match the color of red of the Adobe icon. So I'm going to click with the eyedropper tool, and if I select my selection tool and click off, you can see that now my text is red, and not just any red, the exact same red as the Adobe logo. Before I start formatting the rest of the text in my document, we're going to remove something. You'll notice how each of these different sections of text for each program and the description is separated by a space. The spacing that's currently in the document is created by someone reaching the end of a paragraph and pressing return. And the more times I press return, the more space I add. If we go to the type menu and select show hidden characters, there's this funny looking icon that looks like a backwards P. It's called a pilcrow, and every time we press return, we add more pilcrows. What we want to do is we want to strip all these extra pilcrows out of our document so we can use a more sophisticated way matting space between each section. And what we're going to do is we're going to remove all these extra pilcrows. Now I could select each one and press delete and then go to the next and press delete to remove them, or I can ask InDesign to remove them for me. Every time I want to get rid of one of these extra pilcrows, notice that there's this pilcrow here and there's also one at the end of this paragraph. So I can ask InDesign to look for all instances where there's two pilcrows in a row, and I'm going to click and drag to select them and replace them with a single one. So I've selected both of the pilcrows. I'm going to copy them to the clipboard, and I'm going to go to Edit, Find, Change. So I want InDesign to find, and I'm going to press Command V to paste. And each of these special little characters, these hidden characters, has a specific little code that represents them. And because we copied the pilcrows and just pasted them in, it automatically converted it to that code. So you don't even have to worry about memorizing the little key commands to access the codes. I want it to find all instances where there's two pilcrows in a row, and I want it to change to just one. So I'm going to press Command V to paste again and remove one of those references. I want InDesign to search throughout the whole story, which in this case is this text container. So I'm going to select Story. And then I always like to take this for a test drive to make sure that it's going to do what I want it to do. So I'm going to click the Find Next button, and then I'm going to say Change, then Find. And it worked. Change, then Find. Change, then Find. And once I'm confident that it's going to do what I need it to do, I can just click Change All. And that's 10 replacements I didn't have to make manually. I'm going to click Done. And now we're going to use our paragraph spacing options to apply space between the elements in our design. Again, we're just going to worry about this first block of copy. And I'm going to double click to make that text container active and also make the text active. And I'm just going to click anywhere in this paragraph. And then up here in the top portion of the window, instead of the character level formatting, we want to click on the pilcrow icon to gain access to our paragraph formatting controls. We're going to move all the way over to this area where it says Space After, and I'm going to click once in that field and use my up arrow key to increase that value. I'm going to leave it at 10 points. Another thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of space between the heading and the description paragraph for each of these elements. So I'm going to click once in the heading, and I'm going to use that Space After option again, and I'm going to increase the value just to give it a little extra room. Now that I have my formatting in place, I want to apply it to all the rest of my copy. And then what I don't want to do is I don't want to have to select each chunk of text and change the settings like we did for this first block of copy. So what we'll do is we will use the eyedropper tool. Now we used it before to sample color, but we can also use the eyedropper tool to sample paragraph and character formatting. So to begin, we're going to select our next heading where it says Adobe Illustrator. We're going to select our eyedropper tool, and we're going to click on the text that we want it to look like. And you'll notice that the eyedropper gets filled up. And now that we've sampled this text once and the eyedropper still indicates that it's full, we can go through and we can click and drag across each of the different headings in our text and automatically apply all that formatting quite quickly. And now we want to do the same thing for the text descriptions. So we're going to start off by selecting a block of text that we want to change. Select our eyedropper tool and clicking on what we want it to look like. Now that the eyedropper sampled this formatting, we can go on and click and drag through all the descriptions of the products. And I'm going to continue to click and drag and apply that formatting to the rest of my application descriptions. Now that I've applied the formatting to all my different sections, the next thing I want to do is tidy up how the columns are flowing, because right now we have Adobe Dreamweaver and part of the description is on the next line. Now, if this was a magazine article or a newspaper article or something similar, then it would be appropriate to let the text just simply move to the next column. But we're creating something that's a little more like formatting a brochure. So what I want to do is I want to move the entirety of the Dreamweaver description into the next column. To do that, I'm going to reselect my type tool, and I'm going to position my cursor just in front of the A in Adobe Dreamweaver, and I'm going to press my Enter key. And that forces it into the next column. And I'm going to look for other instances where the description is broken up and simply click in front of where that description begins and press Enter. I'm going to reselect my selection tool and press W on my keyboard just so I can get a better sense of how this design looks. I'm going to click off to the side to make sure that nothing's selected. And it certainly is an improvement over what we started with. I haven't saved yet, so we're going to go to File, Save As. We're going to click onto Desktop, open up the Formatting in InDesign folder, and you will save your version of this document by adding your last name, your first initial, to the rest of the title. And the last thing we'll look at is how we want to get the habit of saving our finished InDesign files. Right now we have saved the document, but if we needed to send this file to someone else to continue working on, or we're archiving it because this is a document that needs to be worked with or changed from week to week or month to month, we want to make sure that we have all the elements required to reproduce this document. So right now we're using a typeface that's installed on the computer, we're using a placed graphic. So what we want to do is we want to package all of this up so that we've got the InDesign file, we've got any placed graphics we've been using, and we also have a copy of all the fonts we've been using. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to package up this file. So we're going to go to File and select Package. It's going to give you a little summary of what's happening with your document, with the fonts, which fonts you use, how many links and images you have. Pay attention to the links and images. If it says that all your links are found, no matter how many you have, 1 or 100, great. If it says any of them are missing, then that's a problem. That means it won't be able to make a copy of all those linked images. And it also means that the InDesign file also doesn't know where that image or graphic file is. So when you go to print it out or save it as a PDF, it's going to look terrible. But right now, my file is fine. I'm going to click Package. Printing instructions, this is information I might fill out if I'm going to send this file off to a printer and they might need to contact me with any questions or problems. That's not the case here, so we're going to click Continue. And we're going to select a destination for this folder that's going to be created for us. So I'm going to click on Desktop, I'm going to open up the Formatting in InDesign folder, and it's going to copy the fonts, any link graphics, and it's also going to include some other files as well. We're going to click Package. We're going to click OK. Now that it's finished packaging, we'll take a look at the folder that was created. And this folder contains all the elements that would be required to open up and continue working on this document in a different location or on a different computer. I've got my fonts, I've got a copy of my document, and I've got a copy of any of the graphics that I introduced into my file. That's it.